Hello again, everybody. It's your old pal, Guardian Enzo, coming to you live from a slightly chilly Kyoto and talking to my pal Samu, my pal and co-host Samu, in an even chillier London, UK. How you doing today, Samu?
Indeed, it is very chilly. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to this discussion we've got here. I'm sure you're going to set up very nicely, but we've already done this before, so this is
Mm.
a nice 2.0 of this sort of episode.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics that I've come up with for our podcasting panorama here, which is the next big thing. I love speculating on next big things, next big kaijus, if you will. We've theoretically done one episode of this here, but we did one for the Random Curiosity podcast quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And we'll revisit that too in this discussion. And for the record, we didn't call it that at the time, but we both came up with Boku no Hero Academia as a next big thing all those many years ago when it was still a glint in Oricon top 10 sales eyes. So we do have some history with this. What I want to start out with here is just a quick definition of next big thing. You guys hear me especially, but both of us, but me especially, use this kaiju term a lot, and we'll talk about kaiju more specifically later. But next big thing, we're not talking about a series. Oh, this series became popular. We're talking about one that's going to become a titan. It's going to be the big series of the year, maybe the big series of a couple years, massively popular, crossover appeal internationally, to general public in Japan. It doesn't have to be JJK or Kimetsu level. I mean, those come along extremely rarely, and it's quite shocking, frankly, that they both came in such close proximity to each other. That's unusual. But something really, really big. So that's really what we're talking about, the next big thing. The only real hardcore qualification for this, the disqualification, I should say, is that it can't be something that has already started in anime form. Something with an anime announcement, that's okay. That's okay because no one can know what impact that anime adaptation will have until it actually hits. So that doesn't disqualify. If it's already got an anime going on, that's a disqualifier for next big thing because it could be the current big thing. So let's just jump right in here. That's kind of the idea of this. And during the course of the show, we'll loop back and talk about our previous picks and kind of check in on where we are with those. But I want to just jump in so the rule is we're each going to pick two. We'll start with our second pick and then we'll finish with our first pick. And we did not pre-qualify this. If we choose the same series, we choose the same series. We have to be in the interest of openness. We had kind of a fair idea of what one or two of these might be. We would prefer not to both talk about the same show, but we certainly did not disqualify anything because, oh, let's not talk about this because I'm going to do it or you're going to do it. I'll go first for this round, Samu, and my second choice is a series that actually it was you that brought to my attention as a point of fact.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was, and it is Phantom Busters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mentioned
And
that last year in the, I
you
think,
did.
best of. Yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, as I look through my short list here, the one that kind of jumped out to me as obvious was Atelier of Witch Hat. And I feel like I should qualify this by saying why I didn't pick Atelier of Witch Hat. Because it started out like a house on fire in terms of volume sales. It was doing mid 100,000s in the first couple of volumes. It has an anime coming. That's, by a very, very well-known director, Watanabe Ayumu. But I feel with that series as if it's kind of, I think the ship has sailed on that being a next big thing because we've seen a pretty precipitous drop in manga volume sales for that over the past several volumes, and I think there may be a reason for that. The fact that the anime took too long to get here and then was delayed when it was announced, I think so. I think that undercuts that series. So I think that was probably the first one that reflexively came to my mind. But I'm not picking it. I'm picking Phantom Busters, which is a series I'm guessing a lot of our listeners may not even know. It's a Jump Plus series. The reason you brought it to my attention is a lot of the reason
Jump
why
Square, I believe.
Jump Square. Sorry, Jump Square. Sorry. It has many of the same qualities that one of my picks from last year, Tokyo Aliens, has. It has a real charismatic, kind of goofy boy cast vibe going. I think the chemistry these guys have is one that the female otaku member of the audience, a lot of them will find very, very appealing. And I also think that it is a shonen and it is an action series, so you're gonna get a lot of gender crossover with this in terms of the fan base. And one of the things I think we find with most kaiju or near kaiju is very, very, very rarely do they ever achieve that status merely by being popular with men or with women. I think boys, girls, men, women, usually kaiju or near kaiju have a crossover and are popular with both. And I think that Phantom Busters, once it hits anime form, will be popular both with girls and with boys, with women and men. And frankly, the volume sales for the manga are, considering that it does not have an anime yet, um, or even an announcement that I'm aware of, although it will certainly get one. Um, Very, very strong early volume sale numbers and very consistent early volume sale numbers. And from what I've read of the manga, which is now quite a few chapters, I think consistent is a good word for it. It doesn't have a lot of huge peaks and valleys in terms of quality. It generally stays at the same very, very comfortable, very high level. It is a pretty balanced narrative. It has some darkness, but it's also generally mostly a pretty happy series, I would say. And it has just a very appealing goofiness. And sometimes we pick next big things because we think they have something that's an edge to them that's really profound and it's really going to absolutely explode with a certain target demographic. This is a series more, I think, has a chance to appeal to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. So while it certainly is less of a slam dunk obvious pick than my other pick, my number one pick, I do feel like this one has a chance to be pretty good. And I also think the character designs and artwork here are really, really appealing too. So that is my second choice in the next big thing, version 2, which is Phantom Busters. And Samu, what's your thoughts on this series? Since, again, you were the one who introduced it to me.
Yeah, I mean, you at this point may have actually read more than I have of the series because I only checked it out very briefly last year when I mentioned it. And there weren't many available chapters at that point. But yeah, I mean, worth noting, yeah, it only has 5 volumes collected, I believe, at the moment. Latest one
6.
sold pretty much. Oh, 6. And then the latest one,
Okay.
it's 70k like in a month. That's pretty good. It's doing really,
Yep.
really good for Jump Square. And I can see the reason why. I think it achieves that balance of being like a sitcom as well as like a battle shonen at the same time. From what I've read and from what it seems others who do keep up with it, everyone just seems to have a fun time with it. From what I understand, as is often the case when something that is like a hybrid series like this, it could become more action heavy as it goes on. That I think probably makes sense for the trajectory of the series. So yeah, I just totally agree with you. I think it, from very early life, it has found an audience, and I think that will just continue when it eventually does get an anime adaptation. I don't know if that'll be this year. They might want to get some more volumes before
Yeah.
they can do that. But Jump Square animes are funny as well. Sometimes they get like a one core thing and then it disappears into the void.
Like
Um,
Kimono Jihen, for example.
yes, yeah, one that I know that you're have deep affection and fondness for.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Um,
Let me also just quickly interject here. I didn't say the mangaka. It's Shoko Neo is the mangaka here, and the interesting thing about Shoko Neo is she, and I think it's a she, had her background was basically doing BL dojins. So I don't think you get BL Dojin when you read Phantom Busters, but knowing that once you find that out after the fact, it doesn't come as a surprise. And I think she's found a way to use that background as in a useful, more mainstream way with this series. That's the vibe I get.
I actually think you do kind of see that in the sense of just how, like, the characters have quite strong, defined personalities, and clearly she has fun just them bantering and having the back and forth with each other. So you can see the shipping material between them, I think, that comes quite naturally, and how she has, like, created all their dynamics. But in the same way that you've, like, oh, it can appeal to multiple people, I also think like a typical shonen action lover isn't necessarily going to pick up on that. That's not going to be their main focus either. So it's a very
Right.
smart balance of everyone gets a piece of what they kind of want from these characters in the series. So it is actually one that I do think I will catch up with fairly soon, so that I can have like a proper gauge of where it is right now in the story. But yeah, that's a very good, like, very I would say that because I shouted it out last year as well. Shall I jump onto my second place pick then?
Hi, dozo.
Okay, this is an interesting one because we're sticking with the same magazine. I am also doing a Jump Square title, and I'm going to be going with Gokurakugai. So that is also Jump Square, and it also started roughly similar times as Phantom Seer. They've had like a sort of similar come up in the magazine in terms of like their strong performance out of the gate. This is another one that, in terms of sales, like that, this is also around the same line, 5-6 volumes, selling 110K, which puts it up above even like majority of Weekly Shonen Jump at this point. So it's a safe pick to say that it's going to rise even more. But this one, compared to Phantom Series, is definitely even much more of a proper battle shonen title. This one feeds more into like the idea of exorcist, which is a very common theme. And then you've got the two characters. You've got like the younger boy and then the older woman, which I think is a dynamic which is quite common recently. I see that. Yeah, this is one that I just, even from a distance, in terms of how I'm following it, I can just see that there is a foundation for it to just continue to grow. It is worth noting that I think how the series starts, like very, very early chapters, and how the series progresses is maybe slightly different in expectation of how some people thought at the beginning, which is to say that it becomes more, I don't know, quote unquote, typical. I think maybe some people wanted or thought that it would kind of go out of left field and it wouldn't really adhere to tropes. But I think it is. And I don't think that disqualifies it from being popular, because if anything, it's actually helped its popularity. I think it's just you seeing some people who wanted it to be a different series have expressed disappointment. So that I shall note that. So if this ever does, or when this does get an anime, and that also is a conversation that comes up, I wouldn't be too surprised. But clearly, people who are sticking with it are sticking with it, and it continues to do very, very well. Yeah, it's an interesting one that we both picked Jump Square, and they're two new battle shonen-ish hits that they've managed to find. Because for the longest time, they've kind of just relied on what are very long running established series, which just feel identifiable with their brand. At this point, being like Blue Exorcist and Seraph of the End. Like, those are the two series. And then you think also like Rurouni Kenshin sequel, like all these things that are just like staples of that magazine. But they do have
Right.
these two relative up and comers, which I think is really helping the magazine. I think they both have a good shot of mainstream success.
I
Go.
know the series, but it's interesting that you pick it because I remember the first time I saw the covers, which are prominently featured in bookstores, which should come to surprise to no one. I actually thought, oh, it's Phantom Busters, because there's a certain similarity in the character designs, I think, to between those two series. At least to my eye, there is something sort of vaguely reminiscent there, especially the male lead of Gokurakugai. I will be honest and tell you I have not read any of it, so I can't really speak to the content wise, speak to the details of it. But I know the sales are even better than Phantom Busters. As you say, they're both roughly the same vintage. I think this one started in 22 and Phantom Buster started in 23, but um,
Yeah.
I actually feel like to a certain extent the target audiences for these two series are probably not too far apart. If they're
Hmm.
going to become huge, I think they're going to kind of become huge as generalists rather than specialists. They're going
Hmm.
to be Spy Family rather than Chainsaw Man. Let's put it that way. They're not as wholesome, but you get my point. They're going to be more series that if they ride the big wave, they're going to do it on the strength of having a broad demographic appeal as opposed to having an extremely rabid but smaller demographic appeal. That's kind of how I see it. So I think that's a very good pick. It didn't make my final shortlist, but it is one of those when I went to the bookstore to kind of give myself some ideas like, am I forgetting anything? And I saw, I saw this one and oh yeah, this is a big seller, isn't it? And it's always prominently displayed, faced out in every bookstore I go into. So I kind of wish I had, I kind of wish I had read a little of it and it could comment on that side of it. I know, especially the female lead almost has a like a Chinese kind of a wardrobe kind of a. She almost looks like a character
I mean,
from Chinese fiction. I
she
don't
is
know if
called
that has
Tao.
anything to do. Oh, is she? Okay, well that doesn't surprise me. It is an
Yeah.
interesting look. It's an interesting look. I agree with
Yeah.
you. This one has a
She ha-
shot.
she has like when I saw the first volume, or I think the very first color page of the first chapter, without any context, um, I actually didn't even know if it was a female character. I was like, oh, this looks like some sort of like gender neutral sort of could be anything. Um, and I think what you're saying is that it will be more of a generalist. I agree. I think it's not going to like hone in for a specific niche target demographic because I see as well Tao, the female lead. She's not, from what I understand, she's not necessarily presented as um like she's not presented in a fan servicey way. She's not made to be like titillating, but I'm sure you could. There are certain audiences who could find that in her. But the same way, there are so many people I see who like her because she's just presented in a very kind of like I don't know stark like I said gender. I didn't even clock if she was a woman originally as well. I think she has just a very interesting design. And yeah, I think the dynamic between the two is another strong part, which is kind of similar to what Phantom Busters has. And then like a final tidbit on this is the mangaka for this, which is Uto Sano. He was actually assistant for um, Kimono Jihen. So there is a connection
Oh,
there.
really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Ah, for Imoto Show. Interesting. I did not know that. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
check this one out now. Now, especially knowing that.
yeah.
Absolutely. All
Mind you,
right.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if when you do check it out, maybe you have a similar reaction to other people who think, "Oh, this is going a bit too typical." But yeah, I think regardless, it's a good thing to have on your radar.
All right. So then, just to refresh, my second choice is Phantom Busters, and Samu's second choice is Gokurakugai. Both Jump Square series. Ones whose covers I've mistaken for each other on the shelf when I did not know either series. Okay, now just because we're trying to do this sort of in award show fashion, we're going to save our number one choices for almost at the end of the show here. In the meantime, we're going to do a couple of other kind of housekeeping kind of things and other hopefully entertaining things. One of them is we wanted to review our last round of picks. And I'll let you go first, Samu. You can review where you think your two picks are, and then I'll review where I think my two picks are.
Well, it's an interesting pair of what we had last time. So I picked Sakamoto Days by Yuto Suzuki and Gachiakuta by Kei Urana. And both of those manga have had anime adaptations already.
And
Both,
neither of mine have.
neither of yours have. So this is the interesting point of comparison, I think.
Yes.
So in some ways, maybe it, it's kind of a curse and a blessing. So on one hand, I think I was correct in that they were heading towards a space where they were going to get anime. and I think both of them, both of them performed well. I think Gachiakuta anime has been much better received than Sakamoto Days, but neither of them have actually like exploded in popularity.
Yeah.
Gachiakuta, relative to where it was before, probably better in terms of like actual percentage increase. Then again, Sakamoto Days already did sell over 100k
Mm.
per volume, and it didn't get much of a boost. Uh, Worth noting for Sakamoto Days though is that it is getting a live action movie coming out, and they have a very famous lead actor in the role. So if that is what pushes the series into that even higher level, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Jump is clearly still invested in it, even though it's in like the end of its lifespan in terms of the manga run. Whereas Gachakuta feels like it still has a while to go. The anime is still ongoing at the time of us recording. And yeah, it does seem quite buzzy, even though I've not been keeping up with it. I think it fits. I think it fits in that niche. It fits that need that some people have for just a straightforward battle shonen with a strong sense of style. So yeah, I felt confident with these two picks, and even if neither of them has become the next big thing, I think they're doing very well within their lanes of what sort of
Yeah.
series they are. And the audience that they're trying to appeal to. Even Sakamoto Days, from what I saw, the second core did get better received than the first, maybe due to people who dropped off. But uh, yeah, what Sakamoto Days, it really could have been something like massive that blew up. It didn't quite happen though in reality.
Well, okay, let me weigh in on those before I jump in on mine, because of course you'll weigh in on mine too. Sakamoto Days to me is the more straightforward of the two. I think it was closer to its natural high level than Gachiakuta was when it hit anime, I would say. And B, it just simply had what for most people was a pretty disappointing adaptation, and thus it didn't really get any kind of a synergy out of it. Not that the manga sales suffered, but they didn't boom either. It was just kind of flat. Gachiakuta is a fascinating one for me because um, one of the things I did when we do these shows is I kind of go back and see what other people in various forums and various writers, professional writers are predicting. Seems like everyone pretty much universally, almost everyone felt like Gachiakuta was going to be the next big shonen hit. It was going to be the next big thing. Um, and Gachiakuta to me, it checks so many boxes, not least of which is it's really, really fucking good. But it also checks to me what should be a lot of boxes for mainstream shonen popularity. It's getting total kick-ass anime from Bones, who, as usual, are doing, they're doing their signature great job, as they almost always do. Um, and Gachiakuta is never going to be accused of not being successful. It's quite a successful manga and quite a successful adaptation. But I feel looking at it that it should be bigger than it is. And I don't quite know why it isn't. I don't know. Sometimes when a thing isn't the next big thing, you can look at it. Oh, Sakamoto Days didn't get a great anime. The anime came too late in the run, blah, 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 blah. I can't look at Gachiakuta and say, why isn't it the next big thing and come up with an obvious answer. And I'm wondering if you can, because I sure can't.
No, I can't actually, because it's not even a case of where if there is a continued adaptation, there's a season two. It's not like, oh, there's a moment in season two which finally seals the deal. I think, no, it's pretty, what you expect of the series is kind of there from very early on. It's a weird one. Even when we talked about the manga sales, we thought the manga
Yeah.
would have been selling a lot more than it did pre-anime.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
is it just a case of unluck where it feels like all the pieces are there, but it's just not managed to hit the right people? It doesn't connect. It's a strange one. As someone
It,
who is a battle shonen lover, I love it when they're done well. I think this is done well. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. But anyway, that's a topic that could be another whole show. My two picks, I have to say, both get incompletes because neither one of them's had their anime yet, and those were Tokyo Aliens by Naoe and Kindergarten Wars by Yo Chiba. Kindergarten Wars did get an anime announcement, and it will get an anime in 2026 sometime. So that one, I think we'll have a better idea of where that's going to go once that anime hits. I have to assume Tokyo Aliens is going to get an anime at some point because it continues to be a very good seller in manga form. All of the reasons why I picked it are completely valid, and I've read much, much more of the manga now since we recorded that episode, and I continue to believe that Tokyo Aliens checks every box for many of the same boxes that Phantom Busters does for many of the same reasons. I think Tokyo Aliens checks all those boxes. I think it has every ingredient to be a really, really big next big thing kind of a series. And it's become kind of like an in-joke at this point among fans of the series about it not. They're just joking about it. They're laughing about it. It's even the mangaka is laughing about it. It's literally like it is a running gag now why this thing has not gotten an anime announcement. No one really seems to know. I have to assume it will at some point, but it kind of risks running into that Sakamoto Days problem where I think the anime did come later than would have been ideal in order to make it explode. And I think the same is going to be true with Tokyo Aliens. It may even be true with Kindergarten Wars, which took longer to get an announcement than I expected, and I think a lot of people expected. So the only thing I could say about the two series I picked last time is I think they both still have a chance to be the next big thing. I don't think anything has happened to repeat those picks, but I can't justify either of them at this point because neither one of them has had their anime yet. So, I mean, I can't really dig much deeper than that.
Yeah, yours is still in a wait and see position. I will say, if it wasn't for you talking about Tokyo Aliens and the couple of times that you have, it would still have completely missed my radar. From what I'm following online, I don't see anyone talking about it. So I think that is definitely when you picked that last time we had this conversation, I felt like it was quite like a bold out of left field pick. So if it does manifest in the way that
Me
you can
too.
potentially, yeah, if it does manifest, then like well done, you've made a strong bold choice that might pay off. But
Well,
yeah, whereas Kindergarten
that
Wars, I
one
feel
is.
like Kindergarten Wars, I think, has like a base level expectation of where I think it's going to be.
I think
Um,
that could be the next Spy Family. Basically, is what I think Kindergarten Wars could be.
yeah.
As far as Tokyo Aliens, the sales, considering what you said that it doesn't get a lot of mainstream buzz, I think the sales are really, frankly, to me, very impressive. It comes from G Fantasy, and G Fantasy has a certain sort of a brand, you could say, that's exemplified by its biggest hit, which is Jibaku Shonen Hanako-kun, and its second biggest hit, which is Kuro Shitsuji, which has been a hit for longer. So that's sort of like, if you will, the One Piece of the magazine, and Hanako-kun is the the Kimetsu of the magazine. And we're not talking Jump like numbers here, but both have had serious impressive six-figure every volume, multiple six-figure every volume sales for many years. And so this is really the third. This is the third corner of the triangle for that magazine. It very much has a chance to hit the same sort of audience that those two series do. I'm not going to say there's a complete overlap in the audience between Hanako-kun and Black Butler, because there's not, but there is some overlap there. And both of them are enormously popular, both with X and Y chromosome people. So, anyway, that's kind of where we are with Tokyo Aliens. Again, Kindergarten Wars, by the time we have this conversation next time we record this show, we'll pretty much know whether I was right or wrong about that one. It's entirely possible we'll have to give Tokyo Aliens another incomplete. And I just wanted to loop way back then and talk about the two that we picked the first time we did this on Random Curiosity, but probably 4 or 5 years ago. And those two were pretty obvious, and we completely agreed on both of them, and because they were the only two that made any sense to pick. Spy Family and Chainsaw Man. I don't think there's any argument that Spy Family went on to become a next big thing. It is a big thing, very big. Chainsaw Man is too, but I think you would agree with me that in terms of the commercial impact, that Spy Family certainly sort of won in the short and middle term, Spy Family won that competition, if indeed it was a competition. It got bigger commercially than Chainsaw Man for the reasons I predicted it might. It has a more broad mainstream appeal than Chainsaw Man does. However, I will say the financial performance of the latest Chainsaw Man film, the box office for that worldwide and in Japan, has been really, really impressive. And indeed, it has provided a boost for the manga sales for Chainsaw Man, which had been in a pretty precipitous decline, frankly, for a while. So I think it's possible Chainsaw Man could get kind of a second peak coming up here. We could be looking at a second peak. If we get another TV anime season that's done by the same people who did the Reze movie, I think you could see Chainsaw Man kind of become a next big thing. It could loop back in and become a big thing again.
Have you watched the Reze film by any chance?
I have not. I will when it's available on Blu-ray or streaming,
Okay.
but I have not. I don't go to too many movies in the theaters here because it's really expensive and there are no subtitles. So,
Yeah, fair. I mean, yeah, like you say, the Resi film has performed incredibly, actually, I think, compared to what maybe some people were initially expecting. Even like overseas, its total box office is
yes,
144 million.
yes,
It's
very
it's
impressive.
done it's done great, but like if you know, it's less than Demon Slayer does, but Demon Slayer is Demon Slayer, so
One
um
off.
yeah, being like second place relative to that is not a bad thing. There's a few things I want to touch on. So the Resi film, I think, is actually incredible, uh, beyond my expectations. Yes, it has all the bombast. It has everything that you expect, especially if you're familiar with that arc. This arc makes sense to be a movie. It's very self-contained. Yeah, I'm going to be curious for when you do check it out, Enzo, because I think it captured what I think is the best part of Chainsaw Man, or the best two parts, which is the action, the bombast, but also how deeply, deeply sad and messed up so much of the series, so much of what Denji is and what he represents. I remember watching it, and even when things are presented as like, oh, this is Denji being horny, this is all these things happening because this is what he's like. I just, even when all these big action sequences are happening, I was like, this is such a sad movie. And I love Denji so much. I think he's an incredible, incredible character. Yeah, I think this is given it a nice boost, and I do agree with you. If season two, which will adapt the second half of part one of the manga, is adapted anywhere to this level, I think because that is the best section of the series. Period. I think that is guaranteed to have buzz. That's going to be a case
Mm,
where almost I think every
mm,
episode people are going to be talking about it, especially in like the last half of that core. I think every episode is like a potential internet breaking
mm.
chance. It's just been a weird one with Chainsaw Man because, as happens with Mappa, the timeline can be quite slow in terms of follow ups for their hits. So yes, when this does come, I do agree it can have a potential nice boost because part two has not sold very well. It kind of is just in free fall decline because of, I think, various reasons which are probably justified and unjustified in some ways, but that's a whole other
Mm.
conversation. I think yes, Spy Family did
Okay.
win in the end. But Spy Family, to me, just from an outsider perspective, it feels like that sort of show or like title that it really, really has tapped into casuals in a way that, like,
Yes,
it's just that
yes.
it's that thing that is on TV, the equivalent of that, which like people just check out, even if it's maybe not their favorite, but like it's just it
Yeah,
makes sense for people to be like, oh, I need to see what Spy Family is doing. Um,
yeah.
Whereas I think like you probably agree, people who love Chainsaw Man. Um,
Well, yeah, and I would just say, just to be in the interest of complete full disclosure here, if you go back and listen to that, if you go back and listen to that RC episode, podcast episode when we talked about this, which is still out there on the interwebs if people want to seek it out, um, I kind of predicted that that would happen for exactly that reason. That I just felt like Spy Family was going to be that show that was on that parents would watch with kids. That it was going to tap into some of that broad demographic appeal that made Kimetsu such a massive hit. Not to the same extent, but indeed it has. And it is extremely popular with kids too. I have to say, Spy Family. It's extraordinarily popular with kids.
yeah.
Um,
Can I ask one
so
question?
yeah, yes.
I feel like these are two series that maybe are like actually similar levels of enjoyment where you are. From what I see of your coverage, as time has gone on, you have less affection for Spy Family. I'm going to be
True.
very curious if there is an opposite trajectory for Chainsaw Man. I'm wondering, like, as a viewer, reader of both, like, where do you sit right now?
Well, I mean, I've never quite gotten what supposedly made Chainsaw Man so great, honestly. And that applies pretty much to Fujimoto generally. Uh, Although I do love Look Back a lot, but or excuse me, I love Sayonara Eri actually is. I should also point out, of course, that Spy Family is written by one of Chainsaw Man Fujimoto's disciples, one of his assistants, as indeed is Dan Dan, as indeed are several other series. So he's got an incredible network of assistants who have gone on to be hugely successful, which I think is to his credit. Um, I would probably say, I enjoy Spy Family on a casual level, and Chainsaw Man tends to irritate and annoy me a lot of the time. So I guess you could say the highs are way higher with Chainsaw Man, but there are times when it annoys me, and but then so does Spy Family too, for that matter. So once I see Reze and the second season, I suspect Chainsaw Man will probably comfortably move ahead. That's my guess.
Okay, yeah, I'll be curious to see.
Yeah. The next round of obvious, like Spy Family, Chainsaw Man, we didn't do an episode during that intervening couple of years, but if we had, I suspect these are two shows we would have picked: Kusaria no Itorgoto, the Apothecary Diaries, and Frieren. So I would ask you, did Apothecary Diaries win that in the same way Spy Family won the battle with Chainsaw Man? What do you think?
It's a harder one to call. I think Apothecary Diaries is a very funny case because there's so much material left to cover, and if the series continues to be as successful as it is, I think I've said to you, like, get ready for 10 two-core
Yeah,
animes for the rest of the
yeah,
decade.
yep. And it
So I
has a
think,
movie coming now.
yeah, so I think in the same way as Spy Family, maybe it has more chance of being like a staple that just like exists and people know. People are often more people are tuned into what's happening with Apothecary Diaries at any given time. Whereas Frieren is going to suffer from frequency at which it comes out. If this season two is two cores, I think it's going to be almost caught up where the manga is, and the manga's often on hiatus. So,
It
uh,
is,
yes,
yes.
but I think it's probably a case of when Frieren is airing, when stuff is happening, that will eclipse the peaks of which the Apothecary Diaries has. But then on the downtime, I think Apothecary Diaries has the consistency on its side. If you were to ask which I think I prefer more, I prefer Apothecary Diaries, but I do recognize that I think Frieren is a better anime adaptation, I believe.
It's interesting. I prefer Apothecary Diaries too, but with the caveat that the best sections of Frieren are clearly better than the best sections of Apothecary Diaries, in my opinion.
I
But
agree.
I would also say that Apothecary Diaries is more consistent, not just in terms of having the availability of material, but just in terms of quality. I think it's more consistent than Frieren is. Um, all right, now we're going to talk about kaiju specifically. Now, um, let's just briefly next big thing kaiju, not necessarily the same thing. Let's talk about what I mean and what you mean when we talk about the kaiju. This term I keep foisting on you.
Yeah, you
Kaiju
love
to
this
me
word.
is like it's super big. It's the most popular thing at the time it's airing when the anime airs. It's every volume is number one for at least 1 week. Every volume sells at least several 100,000 copies. Always in the top 4 or 5 at the end of the year. Has mainstream penetration. Some non-serious otaku know it, talk about it. It's popular overseas. It's kind of a nebulous definition, but that's how I define a kaiju. And the definition of kaiju is really the theme I'm building up to here. But before I jump into the main part of that, what is your definition of a kaiju?
I would say like cultural impact, uh, relevancy beyond the time that it came out. Just something
Okay.
that has buzz and also the numbers to back it up.
We're going to introduce a fun new segment here from the Enzo Weird Ideas category. The Kaiju Wall. Fans of classic Top Gear, the British car show, which wasn't really about cars, uh, know that Jeremy, Richard, and James did this. Well, Jeremy and Richard mainly did this thing called the Cool Wall, where they have a wall and they would each of them would take turns naming a car, and the other would have to say cool, not cool, or Sub-Zero, which is like seriously super cool. So I want to do this with series, except the idea here is it's going to be the Kaiju Wall. And since I came up with this and kind of inserted it, I insisted that we do it. So I'm going to kind of go first with a few picks and let Samu, and then I'll let him take some pot shots at me with some shows if he wants. But I also it'd be interesting to see if you were one of the Top Gear presenters, which one would each of us be? I suspect I would be James probably. But I suspect you would be James too, which is kind of a problem. Anyway,
I think I would be.
so the Kaiju Wall. So here are your choices. You can say Kaiju, not a Kaiju, flat out. It is a Kaiju, it's not a Kaiju. Not yet a Kaiju, but will be. Or no, not a Kaiju, but it should have been or should be a Kaiju. That's the idea. That's what we're gonna play. So I'm gonna start off with an easy one for you. I'll give you a softball and let you take a shot at it. Spy Family. Kaiju, not Kaiju, not no but will be, or no but should be.
Okay, in that case, I would say Kaiju.
Okay. Yes. Clear cut. I started off with an easy one. It's a
Can I
Kaiju,
ask you? Can I ask you
absolutely.
then to mirror our last conversation? Chainsaw Man.
Yep. No, not a Kaiju.
Interesting.
Yet. Could conceivably. I personally don't consider it a Kaiju because two reasons. Um not not quite the level of sales that it needs, and not quite the level of mainstream non-anime manga fan awareness.
I would
But the film may change that.
I would say what you could extend from that is Tatsuki Fujimoto as a mangaka is a kaiju
Mm.
level mangaka in terms of his impact and influence.
Okay, not the same question, but okay. Okay, okay. Do you want to take one? Or you did take one. Here's another one. Oshinoko.
Oh, kaiju. Yes, definitely. That first
Really?
episode
You're that
alone,
obvious?
I think that first episode was a moment when it came out. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the manga is adapted in the controversial highs and lows it has. Maybe ask me in like
Hmm.
5 years as well when it's done and see if it still has that
All
relevance.
right, all right. Fair enough. I wound up in yes a kaiju, but it was not a slam dunk for me because it's not on the level of something like Spy Family or even or something like that. Obviously not Jujutsu Kaisen.
Hmm.
So I was close on that, but in the end I tipped over into kaiju. All right, you want to throw one at me? Because
How
I have
about
a whole list here.
so do I? How about Space Brothers, Ichukyodai?
Oh, that's a good one. I wish I'd thought of that. I'm gonna say no, but should be.
Okay.
It's tough for seinen to become kaiju. It is very popular. It's been consistent. It does have, it does have live action versions. But it does not have. If you talk to most overseas fans, they have no idea unless they're serious, they don't know Space Brothers. So I'm going to say maybe even should be. I'm going to say no, but should be. What's your take?
Probably same. But I do think
Hmm.
it falls into that category of, especially when it was airing, just being like a staple. I believe it had excellent viewership numbers as well. I think it was one of those ones that
Hmm.
people were checking out. If it got like a complete adaptation, who knows? There's a real chance.
All right, fair enough. Okay, well, it's all right. Since you threw a seinen at me, I'm going to throw a big one at you. Kingdom.
Oh yeah, Kaiju. I think that one's very easy. I think it manages to be an arc on top 10, I believe, pretty much every year, if not just outside of it.
Top
The
20 all time.
Yeah, it's a powerhouse. It has a big Western fan base as well, which is now going to get tapped into with official releases, which is taking forever. And it feels like it just is one of those series which could keep running and running, and hasn't lost steam. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Yes, it is a kaiju. Although I had a moment of hesitation because it didn't even have a license for so long in English that the people who don't read manga other ways had no idea really, unless they'd watched the anime. And unfortunately, the anime started off in such horrid fashion that I think a lot of people dropped it and never realized that it kind of got past that the hideous CGI phase and became kind of acceptable. So there's one that's managed to be a kaiju despite getting an anime that has never been spectacular in terms of production values. I agree. Okay, kaiju definitely. All right, your turn.
Promise Neverland.
Not a kaiju.
Okay. Still excellent sales though. For
Yes,
3
excellent
million.
sales.
Yeah.
Yeah. But well, yeah. You're making me justify that, and it's not as easy as my initial gut reaction.
That's why I asked it, because if you were to look at numbers, it's around 2 million per volume on average. It just has an interesting case of disappointment attached to it, I think, with its last stretch and its anime adaptation. So it does have these stains on its potential reputation.
Yeah, and I just don't think people don't really talk about it anymore. I just think maybe because of that disappointment level. One of the kaiju things I would say for series that are finished would be staying power, that people still talk about it years later. I don't think that many people really talk about Promised Neverland these days, and so I think it misses for that reason. Okay, here's one I'm very interested to hear your reaction on this. Black Clover.
Oh, that's funny, because that was one that I was going to ask you. Black Clover is a funny one because it doesn't actually, compared to when you think of like a giant, like a Weekly Shonen Jump Battle Shonen giant, it doesn't sell those levels, yet it feels like it has the cultural impact, and it has especially like a broad appeal even beyond Japan. I'm going to say not yet, but will be, could be. Yeah.
Okay. How much longer do you think the manga has in it?
I think the manga will be done within the next year. It does get published quarterly.
Okay.
And there'll probably be a final anime adaptation to wrap that up. So that will be its chance to prove that, I suppose.
I'm going to say no on the grounds that it falls just short in like every metric I would use. It's some of these might like, okay, they hit 2 out of 3, but they missed the last one. To me, all the metrics I would use, it's very, very close, but just doesn't quite get there. So I'm going to say no. I agree with you. Not impossible that it could ascend, but I'm going to say no. Okay, your turn.
I'm going to say one that... Okay, so here's my pick. Ace of Diamond.
Oh, that was on my list to ask about too.
Okay, and I asked that of you because I know you have conflicting feelings about it, but...
I do.
You might have to like separate yourself from that, I suppose.
Yes. No, I don't have any trouble doing that. I in this category, I don't think I'm gonna let biases make that call for me. I'm gonna say no. I don't think it's quite massively popular enough, and I don't think it has quite enough overseas appeal for me to call it a kaiju.
Okay.
And you?
No, I think it's just below, but I think it shouldn't be undersold as well. How very, very, very popular it was.
Okay, fair. All right, here's one. I'm gonna aim right squarely between your shoulder blades here. Sakamoto Days.
No, it's not.
Okay, easy.
Sadly,
but I just wanted to test you.
But it should be.
No, like but should be. No, but should be. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it should, but you do, so that's a fair one for you to say no, but it should. No, but it should be. Okay, fair enough. Your turn.
One Punch Man.
No. Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not.
No, not quite big enough. Just not quite big enough, in my opinion. Maybe if the second and third anime seasons had been Madhouse and been Sakuga bombs like the first one and kept that synergy and that craze going, it probably would have made it. But
Hmm.
although JC Staff does suck the paint off a trailer as far as animation is concerned, and it is a problem, I will say also part of the problem with the adaptation is that the quality of the storylines goes down significantly after the material the first season covered. And I think one of the reasons Madhouse dropped it is because they just weren't as interested in what went on after that first season. Yeah, okay. World Trigger.
It's like the baby brother of a kaiju. It's like Loki. It's like Loki extremely underrated in terms of actually how popular it is. Probably not a kaiju, but so like very close as well.
Okay. Okay. I kind of agree with you. It is kind of the one that you look at it and you don't realize just how popular this thing is, and to its credit, but I don't think it quite reaches kaiju level. Okay.
I mean, the latest volume sold 350,000.
Oh
That's
yeah,
crazy.
and that's great, but I don't think it's quite. It doesn't quite
I agree.
take it to the kaiju level. Yeah.
How about let's go shoujo Nana?
No, not a kaiju.
Oh, interesting. I would say yes.
Would you really? What are the sales
just
like
think-
on that? I don't even know off the top of my head.
It's 50 million for 21 volumes.
That's pretty darn good. Do the people outside of Japan know what Nana is?
I think yeah. I think there are a lot of people who are familiar, and Nana represents a like classic shoujo title of
All right.
the entire like medium. I do think that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Interesting. So that is our first abject disagreement. All right. We could go on all day with this. So let's limit ourselves. Golden Kamui.
No, it's not.
Okay.
And I think its time has
Because?
passed to be it. I think it's very, very popular. I think it leans a little bit too much into the niche.
Okay.
And yeah, I think its time of like peak has passed.
Okay. I'm closer, and I would say no, but should be. And I think because it has a almost shocking amount of mainstream crossover appeal in Japan, actually, much more so than you would think. People really know about this thing. Maybe the live action being as popular as it was has a lot to do with that, but I think it's pretty close. But I'm going to say no, but should be. Okay, let me have one of your last two.
Yona of the Dawn, Katsuki no Yona.
Easy one, easiest I could ever imagine. No, but should be.
I kind of gave that to you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a softball, but I can't call it a kaiju because again, it does not have the massive. It doesn't have the massive penetration that a true kaiju would. Absolutely should be a kaiju. It's, in my opinion, it is best of breed for what it is, but I can't call it a kaiju. Okay, Boruto.
No.
No, okay.
I think there's too much disappointment associated with it as a sequel to what is one of the biggest kaijus of all time. I think the fall off is very, very high.
Okay, fair enough. I'm with you.
Another Weekly Shonen Jump one, Gintama.
Yes, kaiju.
Yeah,
in my opinion. It's just I don't get it personally, but it is unparalleled in popularity for the sort of series it is. It is the series for that sort of series. All right, let's close with Blue Lock.
Yeah, Kaiju.
Okay.
The fact that it was one of the only non-jump titles to top the Oricon, I think it is mega buzzy at the moment. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, yeah, for sure it is a kaiju, absolutely. All right, so that's the kaiju wall.
Can I throw one more easy one out there?
Okay, sure.
Just because I want to hear you say it. Bleach.
Yep. Well, obviously. I mean, it's one of the kaiju. How could you even ask me? It's one of the big three. I mean,
I'm so used to people putting it down. I had to hear it.
Well, it's the littlest of the big three, but even being in the big three is still comfortably in kaiju territory. Not even close. All right. I intend to bring this back whether Samu wants me to or not. So you will be getting more of the kaiju wall in the future. And if you have suggestions, by the way, I'm going to throw this out there. in the comments, either on LIA or on YouTube, if you have some suggestions for series you would like us to weigh in on the Kaiju Wall, please leave those in the comments, and we'll jump in and talk about that in a future episode. We don't have to only do the Kaiju Wall in the next big thing episode. We can touch base on series intermittently with that. Okay, with that, it's time for our number one picks. It's time for the best picture category, if you will, and our number one picks for the next big thing. And since I went first with the number two picks, I'm going to let you go first, Samu, this time. What is your number one next big thing pick?
I'm going to go with Kagurabachi.
What?
I know, crazy.
No, I knew.
So, first off, I have to state something. This is a very obvious pick. Why is it an obvious pick? In the industry at large, Kagurabachi is the best-selling manga without not even an anime adaptation, but without an anime announcement. If you're talking about yearly sales, it's the only one in the top 25 that doesn't have an anime release. So it is in very good company at the stage it is at right now. I sometimes even see people who'd be like, oh, is the next Weekly Shonen Jump hit? It still doesn't feel like it's performing at the level they used to in terms of physical sales, which is correct. I think that is true to some degree. But I think if you're comparing it relative to the industry at large, it is at the top of the game. I think for good reason. It's got such an interesting history of being a meme before it even was released, it having a fan base that was so divided from the start, and then I think genuinely becoming a very strong staple of the magazine, which has just improved in storytelling as it's gone on. It makes complete sense to me why it is so popular. It is like one of the most cinematic and like clearly influenced by like films, also like Western films specifically. It taps into
by Fujimoto specifically.
Yeah, I think it's an offshoot of that sort of influence. I think it has the cool factor, it has the shock factor. I think even if it had a interesting beginning and like what people believed it to be, I think it has really, really proved itself as actually a very good title. I think it's well written as well. I think it actually has something to say of substance beyond just being like a flashy revenge story, which in of itself would also have completely fine. Would have been completely fine for it to be that. Yeah, I think it's not got anything officially announced at the moment. Technically, it's a weird one. It got there was a magazine or a news article which referenced, I believe twice, that it was being adapted by Cygames, who did The Summer Hikaru Died very recently.
Yes.
But that's never been
and Apocalypse Hotel.
Yeah, and before that they have I forget the name, Cinderella, the Horse Girls. Which is clearly very popular. So they go in all different directions and where they're going. So I actually have faith that if they are the one adapting Kagurabachi, that they will do what they need to do to bring it out. It's never been officially announced by Weekly Shonen Jump themselves, but that seems to be the case. It has every potential in the world to be an actual kaiju, I think.
I'm with you. I think it is arguably the most obvious pick one could make at this point, which is not in any way to denigrate you making it. I think it makes total sense to make that pick. It has the clearest, most obvious path to reach that level, which is an interesting. Well, I'm not a fan of it, and I've tried a few times, and I like you understand why it's popular, but it doesn't connect with me. It just doesn't ring true for me. There's something about the writing. It just doesn't connect. I'm not on the same wavelength. So I'm not a fan, but I agree with you. It has every chance in the world to be really big. And it is one that could, in addition to being an next big thing, could even be a kaiju. Now, my pick, I suspect, will surprise you as little as yours did me. I'm picking Madame no Ichi the Witch. We're each picking a big jump title. Well, suck it. That's the reality. Most next big, or a lot of next big things are jump titles. That's just the reality. By no means all of them, but a lot of them are. And it's clear beyond any I think any reasonable argument that these are the two young lions of the magazine. These are the two pillars of Jump Future. These are the ones that are the most popular, that get the most push from the magazine. And I think of the two, obviously, I prefer Ichi. I think I much prefer it. Um, I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I do think it's really, really good. I think it has, we're talking about a heavyweight writer and a heavyweight artist teaming up here, each of whom has an interesting sort of a perspective that they bring to the story. It has a really interesting premise, and it does some interesting things in terms of gender politics and stuff like that, which most people are going to gloss right past that and just focus on the humor and the action, which is fine. Most really, really great series have those two different levels that they're operating on, and sometimes more. Um, I think the path towards it being a kaiju is less obvious than it is with Kagurabachi, because I think the appeal of it is less mainstream. But I think it has a certain spark of uniqueness and genius to it that Kagurabachi doesn't. I think being less mainstream than Kagurabachi is both its greatest weakness and its greatest strength in terms of its potential commercially. And I think it's absolutely fascinating that at this point, Jump is effectively promoting them as a pair. They're even going to be sharing a cover. There's a whole kind of, I think, an obvious marketing decision here to market Kagurabachi, Ichi. These are the two future pillars of the magazine.
Yeah.
Both of them will have anime soon. Both of them will get announcements in 26. I think it's probably almost certain. The most fascinating question for me is which of them will be bigger. Much as it was with Chainsaw Man and Spy Family, I think we both knew which they were going to be two big dogs. I think the interesting question then was which one will be the bigger dog commercially, and I think it's an interesting question here too, because I think in terms of raw sales, Kagurabachi has consistently, it is a bigger seller than Ichi, although Ichi sells very, very well for a series as young as it is. In terms of table of contents, and I think in terms of what the editorial team is giving away about their preference, I think they see Ichi as the potentially the bigger, better series. But right now, Kagurabachi has the bigger sales. So I guess you would have to say it would be a moderate surprise if Ichi turned out to be a bigger next big thing than Kagurabachi, but I would not consider it a shock if that happened. I just think it's going to be a bit of an upset if it does. But I think they are both series that have a big chance to become next big things.
You mentioned briefly that you feel that Kagurabachi is more mainstream. Is that right?
I do, yes.
See, I actually think the opposite. I think it's not complete comparison, but if we're going to apply like the Spy Family Chainsaw Man comparison, I would say Ichi the Witch is Spy Family, and I think Kagurabachi is Chainsaw Man. I think Kagurabachi is quite focused in on the lane that it is, the type of series it is, which is this like really dark, intense revenge story as a battle shonen, and I think the very nature of the way the story is progressing, I don't think it's going to be like a My Hero Academia length series. I think it's more of a Demon Slayer length series, Jujutsu Kaisen. But I think something like Ichi the Witch, I can see a future where Ichi the Witch runs for 10 years. Like that doesn't seem crazy to me. Like a 400 500 chapter series.
Sure.
So I think it could have that edge in terms of longevity, and I do think that it will have more of a broader appeal than Kagurabachi will. So yeah, I think it really could go either way. It is going to be interesting. They have the shared cover. I think 2026 is going to be a year where they are going to be pushed as the new pillars as Blue Box and Sakamoto Days kind of step down, naturally end. And I think it's a very good time for the magazine to have that refresh. And I think what is very important, which is why each of them can both succeed, I believe, is that apart from the fact that they're battle shonen and they're both in Jump, and if you read Jump, you're probably going to be reading both. They actually appeal to very different people. I think they're
Agreed. Agreed.
very yin and yang. So they're not going to cannibalize each other. I think you get different flavors of the subgenre from that, and I think that's also a very healthy thing for Weekly Shonen Jump to have the light and the dark balance each other out. Though, mind you, each of the witch has been quite dark lately, so
Yes.
yeah.
My response to that is I think Ichi is darker than you're giving it credit for, generally speaking. I think it's sneaky dark, actually. The reason I say that Kagurabachi is more mainstream to me is that it sort of fits what's become kind of an archetype, which is that this dark, oh, aren't I edgy, kind of slightly pretentious about it, action battle shonen. And to me, that is mainstream now. It's like, to me, it's alternative in a way that's become very mainstream. Whereas Ichi is mainstream in a way that's slightly subversive, if that makes any sense. But be that as it may, what I think is interesting is, as you say, I think the appeal is very different, and I think one success by no means will undercut the others. I think they can absolutely both be very, very successful. But what I think is really interesting is that, in a way, few series are. I think they're really joined at the hip. They are really going to be seen as the two, the two step siblings, the two half brothers, the two combatants, the two partners, the two series that started almost just about at the same time. Kagurabachi started first, but not that far apart. That came along as White Knights to save the magazine when all of its big series were starting to wind down or go away, except One Piece, which will run forever. So I think in many people's eyes, these two series, for however long they go, and I agree with you, Ichi will probably go longer, will be seen as they'll be seen as Kagurabachi and Ichi. I really think that that's going to be a thing. I don't think that this marketing plan by the magazine, I don't think is a total coincidence. I think that is something that's happening naturally. They figure that out, and they're going to maximize that as much as they can.
I think it's going to be annoying if I already see rumblings of like fandom disagreements and like fighting between them.
Yeah, boring.
Which is I'm just like they're really different series. You can enjoy both guys. So I hope that doesn't manifest as much as Big Three era or like My Hero versus JJK versus Black Clover. That was definitely that era as well.
Yeah.
And yes, to what you said, I do agree. Ichi has the darkness to it. I think Ichi himself is kind of comparable to Gon. And I think if I'm to like compare Chihiro from Kagurabachi with Ichi from Ichi the Witch, low-key, like, Chihiro is more of a soft boy than Ichi has. I think he has a real potential darkness to him.
In a funny sort of way, I think it's almost like Ichi the Witch is almost like, imagine if Pokemon had Gone Freaks as the main character instead of Satoshi. And I think if that sort of, it gets pretty close to what Ichi is, actually.
It's almost like Gone Freaks, Chimera, and Era from the start.
Yes. That's the thing about Ichi is definitely one. He is one messed up little man, and so we'll see. We'll see. But again, we've both picked Jump series. We both picked the obvious Jump series. Boo-hoo. It is what it is. I ain't gonna fall on that sword. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
These are the ones that have the best chance. Really,
we picked them as
honestly.
number one because they are the easy number one picks, and I think if I do manage to get you to do your homework and reading more Kagurabachi, I think it would be a very interesting thing to cover both of these series at some point. I think they deserve it when they've got more material to like really dive into them.
Yeah, I'm open to it. Before we wrap, I want to do a final sign-off category, which is the next big thing, NNBT. Okay. This is really the trust your gut, kind of pick a couple series just completely out of the blue, which you think might have a chance to be ones we'll talk about the next time we're doing this show. Oh, that's going to be a next big thing the next time we do a next big thing. So I'm just going to throw a couple titles at you with very, very brief descriptions of why. The first one is Hokago Kitaku Biori, which is a romance about a girl who runs the Mega Go Home Club, and the guy who she kind of drafts into it. It won the next manga award. It has an anime coming up, although we don't have a date on that yet. Or it was nominated for the next manga award, I should say. And it has a fair amount of buzz to it, and I think it has a really cute kind of an interesting vibe that I think this is one that has a sneaky potential. I'm gonna say J.K. Yusha, Demon Girl and or Hero Girl and Demon Girl and Demon Lord Call It Quits, the just premiered Jump series, out of the blue. But I'm not predicting it, but I think of the ones we've seen premiere over the past several months or even this year, and I love Someone Hurts, and I'm glad it looks like it's going to be successful, but it's not going to be a kaiju. I think J.K. Yusha is the one that has the best chance to maybe be a potential next big thing. One that is a personal favorite of mine, which is getting a lot of award buzz and buzz from booksellers and other mangaka, which is When the Chameleon Flowers Bloom by Kido Shino. Manga Taisho nominee, finished I think third or fourth. Wonderful series about a couple of about a neurodivergent boy and his OCD friend. Really, really, absolutely wonderful series, which would be a bit of an upset if it became a next big thing, but it has enough buzz to it from the critical side that I think it has a shot. And then the last one I'm going to throw out there is a series called Momose Akira, which I have not read more than just a very brief sampling of, but I'm surprised. When I was looking for potential options here and kind of branching outside the series that were familiar to me, I thought this is getting a lot of buzz. This Momose Akira no Hatsukoi Hatanshu, and it has one of these countryside vibes and fish out of water. It's an interesting one. I'm anxious to get to know this a little better. It looks interesting. I get the feeling it may not be a fit for me content-wise, but it's definitely getting a lot of sneaky buzz. So those are the four I would pick as potential next big things. Next big things. How about you?
Yeah, I think the Akira Falling in Love that comes out on Viz as well. That's a weekly Shonen Sunday series. Yeah, that has seems like a good buzz from its beginning. It's not that long either, so it's quite early in its run. I mean, Hero Girl, that's a very early pick, so but I can definitely see that future for it. So yeah, next year will be very interesting to see where that and also Someone Hurts falls within the overall roster of the magazine for Jump. Yeah, I have a few. Casting a little bit further ahead, I'm going to say Ruri Dragon, because
Yeah, I thought about it.
it does have a more irregular publishing schedule. It does now have the point where I believe there's a very clear one core anime adaptation stopping point. And I think I've said this to you just when we chat back and forth. It's a quietly really good series just about high schoolers and things that they go through, and not just about Ruri, but definitely her being a dragon is like a metaphor for so many other things that people are struggling and going through in like difference. But it just manages to make the regular seem fulfilling and nice. So yeah, and as a rarity, as a slice of life Jump series, I think it has a unique identity. Yeah, very popular already. Girl Meets Rock is a Jump Plus title that I think has real shot as well. Whenever that
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to get announced as an anime next year, and then maybe not like 2027 probably. But I feel
Let me just say that was on my short list for next big thing, not even next big thing.
Oh wow, interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And then another one that I'll shout out, which is a little bit more niche, as the guy she was interested in wasn't a guy at all. That is
Yes, that was on my short list too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that's only 3 volumes. It's a Yuri slice of life romance series that already has an anime adaptation announced.
Yep,
Who knows when it's going to come out? But that is one that like immediately chapter one established fan base. People love it.
yep.
And
Great pick.
I would actually say not even just like who you would say are like typical Yuri enjoyers. I think it has a broad appeal and a really distinct visual style as well. So when that does come out, I think just in terms of the limit of content, it does have an upper ceiling, but I see it being very, very popular.
Okay. I love all those picks because they were all ones that I was thinking about too. And as I said, Girl Meets Rock was on my short list for next big thing. That was one of my probably final 2 or 3 cuts before I got down to Phantom Busters. So, but yes, the girl was not a girl. The guy was not. Yeah, that one. I see so much buzz for that. I have not read any chapters of it, but it definitely has some serious. It has some serious crackle to it for such a young manga. So I wouldn't be at all surprised. All right, great conversation. I love this topic. I think the overall intention would be we'll do these more or less once a year, but don't have a specific schedule for when we'll do the next one. But I would certainly think we'd love to do another one. And as I said, if you've got some ideas for the Kaiju Wall stuff you'd like us to weigh in on, by all means, weigh in. Leave that in the comments. One way or another, we'll get to it. And again, Samu. Again, thank you. Thank you for another great conversation.
Thank you. These are very fun because we can go back in the future and see how wrong or right we were about our predictions. So we shall be doing that again.
And this conversation about the 2 jumpers is going to be very, very interesting for years to come, I suspect.
Yeah.
And on that note, I want to say again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for everybody for on your favorite podcast outlet or on YouTube checking us out. We hope you'll like, we hope you'll comment, we hope you'll subscribe. And as always, I leave you in the immortal words of Theodore Roosevelt, stay frosty.